Hello everyone and welcome to SuperTekZone Reviews. In this first edition we're going to be taking a look at the TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder. The TASCAM DR07 is an addition to a long line of digital audio recorders that TASCAM aims primarily at amateur and professional musicians who are looking for a lightweight, compact, easy to use recording solution. In this review, we'll take a closer look at the features and benefits of the DR07, as well as providing some real-world sound samples so that you can judge for yourself just how well the recorder performs. Let's get started with a closer look at the TASCAM DR07. And here is the TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder. And taking a look at the front panel, you can see that the buttons are all clearly marked and very clearly laid out. It's a very accessible layout and quite easy to use. At the top of the recorder you've got built-in microphones, and the TASCAM DR07 is capable of recording in stereo. So one of the microphones covers the left channel and the other one covers the right. Below that is the display, and we'll take a closer look at that in a minute. And below the display are the control buttons, namely the input-output loop, rewind, fast forward, playback control, menu, stop home button, and of course the record button. And the menu button, by the way, lets you access the main menu of the recorder where you can make changes to various settings. Below the record button is a jog wheel, and that lets you scroll through files that you've recorded so that you can find a particular spot in a given recording. It's also used to scroll through the menu, and it's also used to restore the backlight. In the middle of the jog wheel is a play pause button, and that lets you control playback, namely play and pause, and it also lets you confirm selections in the menu of the recorder. To start the recorder, simply press the power button on the left side, and then you see the splash screen, and it takes a couple of seconds for the recorder to boot up. Okay, and taking a closer look at the main display, it's got a wealth of information. It has an hour, minute, and second counter to show you how much time has elapsed during a recording. And below that is an hour, minute, and second counter to show you how much time is left on your SD card. Below that is an output level indicator showing in decibels what kind of output you're getting from either the internal or the external mics, depending upon what you're using at the time. And below that is a file name showing you that you're recording in WAV format because it's got the WAV extension, and below that is a folder indicator to show you where on the SD card the folder is and where the file is sitting as well. And of course you've got a record status indicator in the upper left hand corner to show you whether you're in play, pause, or record. So let's take a closer look at the menu. To access the menu, just simply hit the menu button and you'll be presented with the list of choices in the menu, and we'll go right up to the top here. And it starts out with information, browse, playlist, play mode, input setting, record setting, divide, setup, and date and time. Now the input setting is where you can change between mic and line input settings. It also lets you select a low cut filter, which is 400 Hertz, and that can be used for certain types of situations where there's wind noise or a lot of low level rumbling noises that you don't want to hear in your recording. The record setting, which we'll take a closer look at by simply pressing the play pause button to access that submenu, shows you what your current format is, and the DR07 can record either WAV at 24 or 16 bits, or MP3 from 32 kilobits to 320 kilobits per second, which is the maximum fidelity. The sample rate is either 48K or 44.1 kilohertz. Size indicates the size of the SD card that's installed in the recorder. And the pre-record, which you can select either off or on, is a buffer that lets you get about 2 to 3 seconds of audio while the recorder is booting up, and that's helpful because this way you don't have to worry about missing any sound that you want to capture even while the recorder is booting up. The delay function lets you tell the recorder to start recording after a delay of so many hours, minutes, or seconds. To go back to the main menu, just simply hit the menu button again, and that brings you back to all of your menu choices, and then hit menu once more to go back to the main display. Let's take a look at the other parts of the recorder. Okay, and looking at the left side of the recorder, you can see one of the built-in microphones up at the top here, and just below is an AC adapter jack, and the DR07 requires a 5-volt AC adapter. Unfortunately, TASCAM didn't include an AC adapter with the recorder. It's not clear why, because they're not that expensive. Next to that is a door for the SD card slot and the mini USB port, which is just to the right of the SD card slot. And as you can see, the door is attached by a fairly springy piece of plastic. And just simply press down on the SD card to pop it out of its slot, and then just press it back in and it'll seat itself. So that's the SD card door, and then next to that is the power button, and you have to hold that down, as we saw earlier, to start the recorder. You'll also have to hold it down to turn off the recorder. And next to that is the hold button, and when that's activated, that prevents any of the controls from being activated. This way you won't make any inadvertent changes to settings in the recorder. Okay, and on the right hand side of the recorder, you've got a line-in jack, which lets you connect the recorder to a mixing board or a sound board or any other electronic device that has a line output for audio. Next to that is an output level control, and that simply controls the volume on any headphones that might be plugged into the line out jack, and that way you can control the volume of whatever you're monitoring or playing back on the recorder. And in the middle here, or almost in the middle, is the record level wheel, and that lets you adjust the record level from 0 to a maximum of 10. And by the way, the DR07 gives you a choice of high, medium, or low gain settings that operate independently of the record level. And the high level setting, of course, is good for situations where you're dealing with very low volume audio sources, or dealing with microphones that are a little bit weaker and don't have a really great signal output. Whereas low, of course, you would use in situations where you're recording loud sources of audio, such as rock bands, or working with microphones that have a really good signal output. And that's the right hand side of the recorder. Let's go take a look at the back. And the back of the DR07 digital audio recorder doesn't offer much to see. In the middle you've got a mount hole for a tripod, and it's a standard 1/4 inch thread. And the battery bay is just below that. And to open the battery bay, just simply push down gently on the door and slide it to one side, and off comes the door, revealing 2 AA size batteries, which is what the DR07 takes. A caveat's in order here. It's a good idea to get yourself a couple of sets of rechargeables, because the DR07 is a little bit battery hungry, and it can go through batteries relatively quickly. Now, to put the battery bay door back on, of course, it's just a simple matter of sliding it back into place. Like that. And now on to the last part of the recorder, which is the mic in jack. And finally, the last part of the recorder is the mic in jack, and it's nestled right between the 2 internal mics on the DR07. And it's simply a 3.5mm or 1/8 of an inch mini plug connection. And that's because the DR07, not just because of its size, but also its overall design, is primarily designed to work with condenser microphones that utilize the 3.5mm mini plug connection. You can use XLR mics with the DR07, but you need an adapter that mates an XLR connector with a mini plug connection. And that is the TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder. Let's go on now to the real-world sound samples. This is a test of the Rode video mic connected to the TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder. Gain is set to medium and record level is set to approximately 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. This is a test of the Audio-Technica Pro 24 microphone connected to a TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder. Gain is set to medium and recording level is set to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. This is a test of the Audio-Technica ATR 3350 lavalier microphone connected to a TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder. Gain is set to high on the recorder. Record level is set to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. This is a test of the TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder using its internal mics. Gain is set to high. Record level is set to approximately 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. And what's my verdict on the TASCAM DR07? Well, it's a really good value for the money. It's got great sound quality, and it's got an easy to use interface, which is actually quite intuitive. I find personally that I rarely have to consult the manual to find out how to change a setting on the recorder. It's that easy. The recorder is also very handy. It's lightweight and compact and fits in your hand quite nicely. However, I do have a couple of quibbles with the recorder overall. The build quality is okay. It's not stellar. The case is a little bit flimsy feeling and it's a little bit hollow, which means greater handling noise when you're using the internal mics. And in fact, handling noise is a big issue with the TASCAM DR07 because the plastic is fairly smooth and the internal mics pick that up very readily. However, in fairness to TASCAM, that's a problem that a lot of small digital audio recorders have. Because they tend to be relatively inexpensive, some compromises are used in their physical construction, and that generally translates to handling noise when you're using the recorder's internal microphones. The other quibble that I have is that the battery life on the DR7 isn't particularly good. It's not terrible, but it's not particularly good. On average, I'm getting about 7 to 8 hours, and for that reason, because the recorder's a little bit on the battery hungry side, a good set of rechargeables is highly recommended. And finally, and this is a minor quibble, and it's something again that a lot of small digital audio recorders have as a feature, if you will, or a little quirk, and that is that the internal microphones are a little bit on the bright side. Now, that's not a terrible thing if you're doing something like trying to capture non-critical audio like a lecture or anything else where the sound quality doesn't have to be absolutely pristine. Bottom line, I give the TASCAM DR07 4 stars out of 5, and even though it's been discontinued, it's still available in a lot of places for about $150, and that makes it very accessible to people who are on a budget. And because it's been replaced by the TASCAM DR7 Mark II, you'll probably see this recorder get marked down in the next several months or so, making it even better bargain than it already is. So that's it for the TASCAM DR07 digital audio recorder review. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on SuperTekZone Reviews.